Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Environmental Health and Safety Coffee and Compliance webinar. Each week, we chat with thought leaders and regulators within the industry about emerging issues, career development, case studies, and a lot more. Today, we are inviting Kacy Vance on from Calportland. We're really excited to have her here. She's the environmental manager with Calportland at one of their sites. And Kacy will discuss her career path in environmental management and consulting and share some of the top environmental compliance challenges that she experiences and that the rest of her team at Calportland experience that push them to adopt a digital initiative with Mapestry. And I'm sure you all will have a lot of great questions. Feel free to put those in the questions panel at the bottom of the screen. I can address those as we go, and I'll also carve out time at the end for any questions. So just a bit about me. I'm going to be the host today. I work alongside Mapestry's customer experience team to help tell the stories of our current and future customers, and also hopefully provide some useful information for our audience to adopt industry best practices. My name's Sarah White. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. And then for those of you who may not know a lot about Mapestry, we are an environmental compliance platform on the software side for industrial facilities. We focus on providing transparency, promoting collaboration, ensuring efficiency, and finally creating accountability for all compliance obligations. And we do that by creating a data-driven platform. We want to help companies monitor, analyze, and track all of their environmental compliance data and needs in one system. So hopefully we'll address some of the aspects that we do that today on the call, but also just exploring the importance of why environmental management is so important for industry. Speaking a little bit about that is Kacy Vance, and Kacy, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself. We're really excited to have you here today.
Hi, my name's Kacy. I am the environmental manager at Calportland and the Reedo plant just outside of Tucson.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, you're on Pacific Standard Time. I'm on Mountain Time. Thanks for getting up early. I've got my coffee. Hopefully you've got yours or tea.
Mountain Dew.
Would you be able to tell us a little bit about your background as far as your career path and then your current role today?
So many moons ago, I graduated with an environmental engineering degree from Northern Arizona University. Go Lumberjacks. I was formerly an environmental consultant in the Phoenix area for probably about 17 years. And when I was a consultant, I worked on a little bit of everything from field sampling to compliance audits to air permitting. Before I came to Calportland, I assisted the previous environmental manager on a number of compliance and reporting tasks for the plant's Title V air quality permit. And I had the previous air quality permit basically memorized, which may be a little sad. But that made me, when I did come to the plant, I basically had a running start on all the compliance with the air permit, which is probably 50 to 75% of what I work on in any given day. Mm-hmm. And I've been at Calportland just about 5 years now.
Awesome. So you probably know that plant like the back of your hand in addition to the consulting work that you've done with them.
Yes, getting there. Sometimes I'm still trying to find pieces of equipment. It's a very big and very complicated site.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen some of those from a Google view and they look like a matrix. So much going on. But with your current past experience as a consultant and permitting, site auditing, sampling, how has that helped you in your current role as the real environmental manager at Calportland?
I feel like as a consultant, I'd seen a little bit of everything. Hazardous waste pollution with lemon lime, Gatorade colored groundwater, sure. An air permit with no records of reporting, seen that too. So nothing I've seen at the plant has surprised me, which has been nice. That takes some of the stress away. The Rito plant is not a crazy hazardous waste site. We don't have a lot of compliance problems. But I just feel like, not to give it away any secrets, I feel like the job as the environmental manager at the plant is a lot easier than being a consultant, because I don't need to know a lot of things about a lot of different sites. I just have the one, still complex, but the one plant.
Got it.
And when you're a consultant, you get a lot of experience, like managing multiple tasks, getting pulled in different directions all at the same time. So that has helped here at the plant when stuff gets kind of crazy.
Sure, which I'm sure if you're the singular environmental manager, they'll still have you focusing on a lot or using you as a reference point at least. Wh- can you share what initially drew you to environmental management? It's a pretty niche field, and obviously you've got to be passionate about it, but could you share your experience a bit?
So when I was probably still 12. That's going to date me a little bit. Was when is in 1989 the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and just watching that unfold on TV, and it was just a tragedy to me. And I'm fairly sure most little girls want to be a marine biologist at some point. I just don't think that was something I would have been good at. And so when I was in high school, my interest kind of turned to the environment. But that was a real big changing point for me.
Yeah, that's I think all that one really needs to spark that passion and interest. And obviously there's a lot of room for improvement, especially as industry gets more complex. We're putting more chemicals and ingredients and all these things in our industrial processes. Compliance in the past used to require a little less resources and less specialized skills to manage things effectively. But for now, a lot of companies compliance is just growing increasingly complex, so we're having these disasters, but then trying to mitigate them as best we can. My question, I suppose, here is what was Calportland's motivation for piloting a digital initiative with Mapestry? Obviously it's bandwidth for a lot of companies, they just can't handle all the regulations that are coming onto their plate, but can you share a little bit of Calportland's motivation?
One of our motivations was just tracking of all of our environmental tasks for each of the 3 cement plants,
Hmm.
kind of in one place. There's been a little bit of employee turnover in our department in the last 5 years since I've been there. And we wanted to make sure that all, if I got, not to be crude, but if I got hit by a bus, that somebody would be able to step in and kind of pick up the very important tasks that I've been working on, and have an idea of what all's going on. In addition to seeing everything in one place, it's been really nice to be able to attach supporting documentation. I submitted a report. Here's a copy of the report attached to the task. If and when we do ever get another site inspection from some of the state agencies, that'll be nice to be able to pull up and say, yes, here's where I submitted that report. It's on the calendar. I can pull up a copy of that very easily.
Sure, absolutely. That remote accessibility, just everyone having, or various people having access to certain documents at any point in time or from any location, yeah, it is really important, I think. And we've learned that from, past accidents, of course, but also just this last year as we all transitioned into more remote work, having that digital accessibility is obviously really important. Um, Prior to using Mapestry, what did the inspection process look like in terms of, was it pen and paper or was it digital, and how has that kind of shifted?
It was pen and paper, and it was just so much paper.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we have daily, as in 365 days a year, monthly, quarterly, and annual visible emissions inspections all over the plant. I think there's 35 different pieces of equipment we've got to look at every single day, plus property boundaries and some other things. And then you've got the inspections for the SPCC, the stormwater, waste storage area. And so when we were onboarding with Mapestry, we looked at how many different things we were having to inspect every single year. And It's more than 15,000 inspection points every year, which is crazy.
Ooh,
So all of that information was turned into me on pieces of paper, and I kept it in my office. I'd have to keep it in a file. I'd have to have room for it. And if I needed to find that information, I'd have to dig through all this paper, or sometimes even go out to a Connex and dig through storage boxes. It was really time consuming.
mhm. So with the adoption of the digital form, as you mentioned, it's nice to just pull that up, but has your team embraced that as well? If the process was them handing pieces of paper to you for reports, how has that shifted in terms of team management or um, receiving inspections?
It's been really nice to be able to log in on the website or get on the app and not only see that an inspection was done on time, but see what the results of the inspection were. And it's all right there, right at your fingertips. I'm not having to wait for, this paper to show up in my mailbox or even get mailed to me. It's fantastic.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. You've mentioned some of the challenges that drove your team to pilot this initiative, but um, would there be like a specific compliance area that is tied to that challenge? And if so, what would that be?
I think the pandemic really shined a light on the main issue with our paper inspection reports. Especially at the beginning of the pandemic, some of us weren't in the office. My contractors did not want to meet anybody in person. They didn't want to hand off this, their inspection sheets. So we ended up getting them mailed, and even that took quite a while. At one point, I think we were like a month behind in getting the paper copies of the inspection reports, and that's just really not going to work long term. Um, so that was actually an interesting part of the pandemic, where we saw that this old system just wasn't cutting it.
Mhm. Of course, with reduction and turnover, but regulatory bodies and agencies in different states, I think we're a bit more lenient towards deadlines and whatnot. Is that correct?
Yeah, so ADEQ, who's Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, who oversees our air permit and some of our other environmental requirements, I think it's just now starting to get back into site inspections, observing performance testing, for example. So they've been doing, I would call it a drive-by inspection, where they don't actually come into the plant, they don't meet with anybody in person, but they've done an inspection from outside the plant boundaries and then come to us or emailed us and asked us for other records to complete their inspection without actually physically interacting with anybody. So that's starting to change.
Got it. That's so interesting. I mean, obviously, you've got to just really be prepared for when the inspectors do come to call.
Yes. Oh
But
my goodness.
no problem. But in a sense that having that digital framework in place, or at least getting your inspections onto a digital platform, I guess it's nice to have this bit of time where companies can catch up, so to speak, and regulatory bodies are a bit more lenient, or hoping to just collect digital reports, kind of a case for digital. But it sounds like this period of time has been an opportunity for companies to catch up, so to speak.
Definitely.
Yeah. But if now's probably a good time to make that transition. You said you've been working on the Mapestry platform for several months now. Is that about right, or a year?
I think it's been since about last October,
Okay.
is when we officially signed up and started converting everything over.
Super. Um, and in that sense, could you identify like one key way that the technology has been really helpful to you in your role specifically?
What I really like, and this is not something I thought would kind of come out of this, is when you get all of your environmental requirements in one place, it's a lot of stuff to look at. And not that I feel like I really need to justify my job, but also kind of to justify your job, you show plant or corporate management all the things that go into keeping your plant in compliance every year. And it's a lot of stuff. It can really drive home that this just isn't I guess I want to say a really easy job that doesn't take up much time. There's a lot that goes into keeping the plant in compliance, even when you're not appearing to actively be out inspecting something or um, checking on the SEMS, for example. There's a lot to do every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. Environmental management is a huge part of the industrial process and just industry in general. And so having all that information in one place kind of goes to show how many different moving parts there are, really. I think that's one of the benefits to getting it all in one system is yeah, you can show what you do on a day, but you can also delegate tasks as needed. Um, and I don't know if there's any discussion of this within, between you and your colleagues or within the industry. I know there is on our end, but this idea of like environmental social governance metrics, particularly as it relates to air quality and environmental justice, industry have a huge impact on the neighborhoods within that area, and including air compliance and just water quality. So having that digital data to report back on, I think, is going to be even more important in coming years with growing emphasis on environmental social governance and whatnot. But I would love to get your input on that.
I definitely agree. At least for the Rito plant, we are right next to a very small, they call it the village of Rito, but those houses and that little town was there before the plant was there. So I think it's good to have something you can just pull out of your pocket and show all the things you're doing to stay in compliance and to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Um, now, with that, obviously, more transparency allows you to be more mobile and more remote. So you can still manage everything on the site, but if you need to be away for a weekend or whatever it may be, you can do that. Was being more mobile a priority for you as the environmental manager? And do you use like a mobile app or a tablet to do the inspections?
So being mobile was a big priority for me personally.
Mhm.
One of my nicknames is Spacey Casey, and I tend to go out to look at something and then forget to do it before I get back to the office. So using the mobile app was great for me because I can take photos during an inspection and add them right to the form. I can also from my phone it's a little easier because that's got constant internet, but I can add a task for somebody else to do, like clean up spilled oil in a concrete containment area, and send that off to them before I get back to the office and forget about it. And then adding in detailed documentation to the inspections is great because then the inspection is completely done. I don't have to go back to the office, put photos in a Word document, print it out, put it in a file. It's just a big time saver.
Yeah, it sounds like a big time saver. And I mean, with or without the name Spacey Casey, 15,000 inspection points is a lot for anyone to handle. So I'm glad that it's effective for you, and having that mobile version is working. And absolutely, the notes, just making it more descriptive, I think is beneficial to everyone on the team because obviously environmental problems, as a consultant, as a past consultant, they can be really complex. And I think communicating that complexity is one of the challenges between the team. How has the tool helped you communicate some of these complexities or challenges to your team members or higher up in corporate or even across plants to share ideas and ways to best manage challenges?
I think it's been great to show the plant manager, for example, or upper management exactly what's going on at each plant. I know one of our other cement plants use the mapping function to put together a really quick map of like all of their groundwater wells to show upper management, why there was such a difference in cost between one cement plant and the other. Um, it's great to have it just all in one place. It really helps me kind of stay on track and make sure I'm not dropping the ball.
Awesome. Good to hear. I'm glad that it's being able to be used across platforms. And yeah, pinpointing the groundwater areas seems like a really useful uh, tactic just to get a sense of everything. Have you started using the mapping tool at your facility?
I have, and so for me, the biggest priority was we have 110 or 112 dust collectors, and not only remembering where they are has been a challenge for me, but I've also gone through and added a photo of the dust collector, a little more description of where it is, and then we did you can do custom text fields. So I added in uh, test requirements data from the permit, when the last test was performed, what the last test result was, when the next test is due, and that I can all pull up directly from the map, which will be great when we have ADQ out next. They can just, what about this dust collector? And I can pull all of that up right there. So that's been fantastic.
Oh, that's great to hear. That probably just saves them a lot of time too on their inspections, just in terms of sorting through everything. Do they normally come once a year for those inspections, or how often would you need to update the maps for those to be, most up to date?
Most of the dust collectors only get tested once every 5 years or once every permit term, if at all.
Okay.
We've got some that haven't run in quite a while, and other ones that just don't have any kind of testing requirement. So it's not that difficult to update. The main updates would be on our kiln and our clinker cooler bag houses. So
Got it.
that's super easy to update every year.
That's good to know, and probably saves AQD a lot of time, but just having all of those, when the one inspection does come to call, I think is probably really important for you guys just in terms of staying in compliance. So better to be safe than sorry in this scenario.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be scrambling around when the state is there to inspect your plant. It's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, especially if it only happens once every 5 years. Oh my goodness. Um, great. Well, and it's all very informational to hear how you guys have implemented this tool, especially coming up on a year now. I think it's really wonderful how you've embraced it. Um, in terms of just environmental management being a key part in industry, part of why you're passionate about it, do you have anything else you want to add for us as a final reminder in terms of, folks who might be thinking about going to this field, or leaders that are trying to elevate their environmental program to make it a bit stronger? Anything else you'd like to add for us?
I want to touch on the saying that a stitch in time saves nine. With a lot of environmental problems, when you first find the issue, um, a solution can seem really expensive. But if you let the problem sit, hazardous waste spill, for example, it just gets more and more expensive to clean up or to handle as time goes on. So in the example of a hazardous waste spill, if you cleaned it up right when you spilled it, that's going to be a certain cost. But if you leave it sitting and it gets contamination gets down to groundwater and spreads out in the groundwater, that is many times more expensive to clean up. And so I think that's something hard sometimes to communicate to upper management or at the corporate level, is that, yes, this specific tool we're using, such as Mapestry, for example, may seem expensive up front, but look at all the money and time it could save us down the line.
Wonderful. It sounds like you were probably a proponent in communicating that to your team. So thanks for sharing that here. Really glad Calportland's made the pivot to adopt digitization. And I'm really happy it's working for you and making your life a little easier. So thanks so much, Kacy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. We do this every couple of weeks, and feel free to reach out to us directly at mapestryinfo.com. Um, we are happy to answer any of your questions, share a demo of the platform. I know we talked about it a lot today. So if you're curious to see it, feel free to reach out to us. The next speaker is going to be in September. Her name is Julian Finkelberg, and she is part of the EHS team at Toyota Racing Development. So, really excited to dive deeper into environmental health and safety strategies with you all. Thanks again, Kacy, for coming today, and I hope everyone has a great Tuesday.